Hello, Hoovians, and welcome back to the main channel. Yes, we're back doing an interview on the main channel. If you're watching it on YouTube, but if you listen to it on audio, because I distribute it via SoundCloud, fancy me, you're listening to it on the Blue Box files that no need to explain why it's called that due to the fact that I've interviewed the person I told that I nicked it from. So let's not cause any more copyright that isn't comical copyright, CC something. I don't know where the R comes from, but there's an R somewhere. And so, we're doing another wonderful interview. Now, before we get on to that, I'd like to say, if you haven't seen my previous video about Lost audition tapes from the TV film, I highly recommend it. My voice sounds a lot worse than it does here, but the information you're given, as in e.g. the actual tapes, are quite interesting, and I probably will do a follow-up soon. Tony Slattery and John Sessions and the like. They're the only two I've found. If you find any others, let me know somewhere. I don't know where you'll let me know, but shout it in the woods. Tell me with psychic telepathy. That's the word I was after. So, let's crack on. My guest today is best known for writing the brand new, incredible, because it's very popular, and very shocking, because who knew it was going to happen this quickly? 13th Doctor, well, 13th Doctor era, Fugitive Doctor, box set. It's the one and only Lisa McMullin! And so, we'll start at the beginning. How did you get into the world of writing?
Writing itself. I used to be an actor, and then I was a terrible actor. So I became a drama teacher, because I didn't know what else to do with a drama degree. And then a friend of mine that I'd been to drama school with was still acting and hadn't had any work for a while. So he asked me if I'd write a play for him. And we co-produced this little tiny fringe theatre play, and put it on in a pub theatre in London. And I just really enjoyed the whole process. And it hadn't occurred to me up until that point that I could write drama as a job.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think, oh, okay, this could be a career.
Yeah.
So I gave up teaching and became a writer, which is a really terribly foolish, unstable thing to do. But hey ho, here we are.
And before you started working on the world of audio Doctor Who, were you a fan of the televisual program beforehand?
Yeah. I think pretty much everybody who works at Big Finish is. I think it's very high because it's such a very particular show. There's nothing else really like it. It's not like any other sci-fi show. It's got a really distinctly Britishness about it that I don't think has ever been replicated anywhere else. And I think if you don't understand the sort of feel and the tone of it, even if you know sci-fi, you're gonna struggle to write it, because it's such a quirky little thing of its own. Little thing, I mean, it's massive, it's global, but you know what I mean. It's so distinct. I think you need to know it really well in order to write it.
And what was it like writing for the brand new, because it was so soon, the brand new Fugitive Doctor?
Um, it was you say brand new, yeah. It was when we did it because it was announced at Big Finish Day. Oh, was it 2 or 3 years ago? It feels like it was 100 million years ago that Big Finish announced it, and it's just been released. So I actually wrote it a couple of years ago, I guess. But that was so fun because another female doctor, which I was very excited about. Black Doctor before Shooty. Joe Martin got there first. Come on. And I really loved her on the TV show. I that episode I didn't see it coming, which I should have done because I'm normally trying to second guess everything. But the reveal of the TARDIS buried, and then the realization. I just thought her change from when she was the not remembering version of herself, and when she became the Doctor, it was just really powerful. I thought, oh yes, hello. So the chance to explore that character more was brilliant. Yeah, such a treat.
And do you reckon that because Big Finish is so good at filling in gaps for fans that because canon, as a lot of people have worked out, doesn't really exist, but somehow it really exists because there's so much of it, and there's
Yeah.
so many other elements. A bit, some people might disagree with a small element. Do you reckon that Big Finish? Do you reckon that this was a good box set for Big Finish because there was so much untold story and told so much mystery that the TV show's left open that Big Finish could fill that gap for the TV show to pick up?
Yeah, perfect for because we've got her established in the TV show, so the character itself is if there are some people who think that canon means only what's on the TV show. So therefore that character definitely exists in the universe. But then so much of her story we don't know about. And so you get to tell whatever version of her history you want to. They work with closely with the
Yeah,
TV showrunners, so anything that Big Finish do has been cleared by the people who created those characters and the BBC. So it, if you ask me, I say everything Big Finish does is canon, but you know, I would.
yeah, and I think that Big Finish does a good job at making sure that every Doctor has had a good enough run both on TV and on audio because it's like if people didn't really like Colin Baker on TV, people then fall in love with him due to the fact that the amount of amazing audio he's done. And one of the
Yeah.
other things he's worked on that's become a fan favorite, and I think that the actor has sort of now seen himself as this version of his character than the other. But what was it like writing for the Eighth Doctor?
Because yeah, you're right. He exists in that very well. When I first started writing for the Eighth Doctor, we had the film,
Yeah,
and that was it. And then we had the little tiny, well, we had the little tiny snippets that Moffat gave us during the anniversary stuff. But he has created a Big Finish have created this massive world and all these. I think he's probably got more companions than any Doctor ever.
yeah,
Um, but that's been glorious because you get to almost invent what that doctor is and who he is. I mean, that had pretty much been done before I came on board, but he's I don't really have favourites, but I really do thoroughly enjoy writing for the Eighth Doctor, which is why I've done so much of it. Because Paul McGann and Big Finish have really created that character between them over the years. Love the TV film, and thank God we had it. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened in those years? It gave us a little something to cling on to. But yeah, I love writing the Eighth Doctor. Paul he's really embraced it, and I think the more he does it, the more he loves it.
and I think that what makes Paul McGann's Doctor so incredible in audio is the fact that even though what we see on screen is a completely different version to the audio because he's developed over the years he's been in audio. I think that what works really well is that the amount of costume changes from the covers and the props. I think that's what makes, for me personally, that's what makes Big Finish so incredible because you then see fans, and I've seen multiple photo shoots and during this, but you see fans creating all these props that he's never touched before in his life. And do you reckon that that helps Paul McGann slightly, having these fans come up to him, giving him what the Sonic looks like on the cover that I don't think he might have touched before?
Yeah.
I reckon that helps
Oh,
the character more.
absolutely. Yeah. Because you're right. The people who that's another thing that's very particular, I think, about this show is that it does feel like something that belongs to everybody involved in it, whether you're listening or watching or reading or creating. It feels like it's a real group activity, like a communal activity that without, if you take away any part of it, it would all crumble. But yeah, that definitely. the fan contribution to this world, and probably particularly to the Eighth Doctor, must be huge because we're building it together. We're creating the myth and the legend as a community, I think.
And I think that when you lift off some of the greatest companions of all time, and I know that there's multiple videos online, various degrees of different years over the years. That's the word I was going for. And you can see the big finish is always the largest part of it, and I think that that's what shows. That's what proves that this show is good because it helps actors like try out their craft in the world of science
Yeah.
so that they know that is that for them, and because they're trying out this thing and they get to enjoy this fun. And I think that it's I think you could class it as a training ground because without that you wouldn't have some of this talent. And I think Paul McCann over the years has improved his ability, and he's a better actor now than he might have been 10, 20, 30 years at the beginning.
I mean, I think he's always been a pretty good actor. Have you seen? I mean, look at Withnail and I. Come on. But you're definitely right that it gets so many people in, and I think quite a lot of people must get some of their first jobs with Big Finish. But the spectrum of talent, so you'll get really ridiculously crazy big stars. Um, you've got Derek Jacobi, who is an absolute king, a titan of British performance, and then you'll get somebody who's maybe fresh out of drama school, working together, and it's such a lovely, warm. It's a really warm, feels like a warm, safe environment. The recording studio. There are no egos at all. I've never had a bad experience in a recording at Big Finish. Everybody is just lovely. But what a chance to work with some amazing, amazing actors when you're right at the start of your career. And I don't think there's ever been a dud casting that we really get some brilliant, brilliant actors. And you can then see them go on to be massive big stars in their own right. Sheridan Smith was, just starting out when she came to Big Finish. Look at her.
And yeah, and one of the things you've done that I would say that Big Finish are praised for doing this with the older spectrum of actors that are no longer with us. These people have done excellent jobs at not doing exactly the same, but doing as close to the same, but in their own way as possible. But this one's more of an unusual choice due to the fact that the licensing makes no sense. Well, it makes sense, but it's slightly well. The actual actor is busy. But what was it like writing for Jacob Dudman as the 11th Doctor?
Um, I mean, he's just two things with Jake is that one, he's a brilliant actor in his own right. Which so he's not just an impressionist, he's not just doing an impression of Matt Smith or an impression of the 11th Doctor, he's acting. But he is also the most uncanny impressionist of Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor that I've ever. You can't. Even when he's in the recording studio, he does the mannerisms and the facial expression. It's just I can't tell when it's him and when it's Matt Smith. Like, if I didn't know, I don't think you could tell the difference. So he was just a magic combination of a brilliant, brilliant actor and an absolutely spot on impressionist. Um, and I forget, I'm writing for the 11th Doctor. I'm not writing from Matt Smith, if you see what I mean. So he played him absolutely brilliantly. And that series I think, is one of the best series that Big Finish have put out. I just think it's absolutely magical.
And why do you reckon it was so popular in the end with the audience?
I think it's like having a brand new series of the television show. There's a really clear arc. The character development with the companion and the Doctor's relationship is just second to none. And every single there's no dud.
Yeah.
There's a Jacob Dudman joke in here somewhere. But there's no dud episode. Every single episode in that series is absolutely banging, and some of them are just astronomically good.
And I think that's what Big Finish is good at. I think there might be a few segments in bits that might not work as well as some people might have hoped, but I think that Big Finish, I don't, from my personal experience, other people will have their own opinion, but I don't think there's ever been a bad audio ever from Big Finish. And do you reckon that that's why they've lasted so long? Because they make so many, so many brilliant audios from not just the main series of Doctor Who, but all their own original spin-offs from that.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think I mean, it's such a tough, especially at the moment where the audio drama market has exploded over the last 5, 6 years or so. But yeah, I think the quality is just second to none. The attention to detail and the production values that they put into every single story that they put out. From the writing, the script editing, directing, producing, the acting, there's the sound, the design of it. It's just, yeah, I think it's quality that means it stands the test of time.
Yeah, and I think that the first time I ever heard a Big Finish audio, which was slightly odd because I didn't know much about it, so I think I listened to Doom Coalition 2 before I'd even heard the first one. Um, I don't know why.
Being ahead.
Yeah, and it was incredible, and it's one of those things. It's like for a first time listening, you're like, whoa, because I had listened to Just a Minute on the radio or radio comedy, but
Yeah,
I never thought drama could be that brilliant. And you can pick immediately, well, 4 seconds after you've listened to the theme tune, you can immediately picture what's
yeah.
going on. And do you reckon that's what makes it easier for you if you can sort of try and picture in your head what it would look like as you write it to make sure you're writing something that's as imaginative as possible?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if everybody does this, but I'm such a visual person. I don't do, I don't really do well with audio. I have to have the visuals first, so to create that in my head first, so I can always see what it is I'm describing on the page. I know what it looks like, and that helps you describe what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're writing your Big Finish work, do you sit and listen to a soundtrack to get you into the mood of writing, or do you just sit in a quiet room with no distractions and just write out your scripts?
I need quiet. I know some people do listen to have the TV soundtracks and Big Finish soundtracks going in the background, especially if it fits with the character or the range that they're writing for. I need silence. Like I can't write with anybody around me. Yeah, I just need to be a little headspace. I can't go to a cafe and write. The people who can do that, people who sit in the National Theatre cafe and type away, like just pulls me.
Yeah. And one of the other things you've worked on that is, again, something that's become really popular with the fans due to the fact that in the TV show we knew a lot about the character, but there was elements that were missing. What was it like working on the Diary of River Song?
Oh, I mean, I just love the character of River anyway. She's one of my favorite characters ever invented in the show. And so I just love her. I could write her all day, every day. And I bumped into when I first it was the first Doctor Who story I did as well for the Emancipation for the 8th of March International Women's Day box set. And when I knew that I was doing River and Leela, I bumped into Stephen Moffat at a TV event somewhere, and I asked him, I said, "How do I write River? How do I write her well?" And he said to me, "Write the sass and the comedy and the jokes." And he said, "Alex will bring the emotion to it." And he's right. She does. She's just, yeah, she's brilliant, and she loves the character so much. That's what you find is that the actors tend to have such an emotional attachment and investment in these characters that they help
Yeah,
and they understand who these characters are often better than you do,
yeah,
which is lovely.
yeah. And are you the type of person that would listen to your work back, or do you just like try to avoid anything you've done to make sure that you're not criticizing yourself too much?
I always listen to it because it's part of it is a bit sort of masochistic, I suppose. But you just want to check that it sounds okay. And sometimes you've recorded or written something so long ago that you listen to it, and like I had a Fourth Doctor Tom Baker one come out the end of last year, which I wrote 2018 or 2019. Completely forgotten what the story was. So I was listening to it like I'd never heard it before. So yeah, I do listen. And also it sometimes you can go, oh, I thought that was funny and clever, but actually it's you should have just cut it. So you can always learn.
Yeah. And why do you reckon the Big Finish takes so long for them to go from writing to recording to eventual release?
They don't always. It completely depends on the range, the story. Sometimes it's just availability of actors. So it's something that they haven't planned to release for ages, but suddenly the actor's available. So okay, let's get them in the recording studio. Sometimes it's weird distribution thing. It's 100 million different reasons, but sometimes you'll write and record and release something just within a couple of months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really varies.
Yeah. And I think that what makes it sort of funny when they do that is that for Tom Baker, because he's not getting any younger, I just think it'd just be kind of funny if the when he does pass away, but if the press never like in a world where the press doesn't report it, no one will know because he'll still have audios coming out, he'll still have new works, and I don't think that would.
Lovely. We could all live forever through Big Finish. Everybody's immortal.
Yeah,
I
and
like that.
and when you finish writing your piece, for the current work you're working on, do you do you then go and stalk them whilst they're recording it, or do you just sit back and only go into a recording day if you necessarily needed?
Oh no, are you kidding? If I can get there, I'm there. Because like you asked at the beginning, I was a fan first, and therefore it's it's a weird job in that it almost feels like a competition prize. So you go and you sit and you're listening to people that you've loved and admired performing your work. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And do you think you feel a sense of pride when you've been there and it's went smoothly and you've felt a sense of achievement that what they've recorded is is not exactly what you said, but what you wrote with a few adjustments. Do you reckon that gives you the pride that your hard work has paid off?
I mean, it always sounds better than I imagine it. They always make it even better than I think it's going to be because the actors are just fantastic and the sound designers, the directors, everybody is at the top of their game, and therefore the it's always better than the sum of its parts by the time it's finished. So yeah, always come away feeling, hey, they made it better, hooray!
And when when you've been commissioned, because that is the official term,
Mhm.
when you get commissioned to write for a character or for a box set that's in its sequelness, or you doing a third part of it, do you, if you've got access to the recordings, do you listen to the previous ones to so that you know what you're not allowed to do due to the fact that previously it's already happened, or do you just get given some production notes of what you can't say now that the box set's halfway through?
Oh, it's always useful to listen to the stories that have gone before, because you get more of a sense. And it's not just plot details. Sometimes it's just the way that characters talk and interact with each other that you can't really get from production notes. So yeah, if possible, I'll listen to what's gone before. I've usually listened to what's gone before anyway, just because,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
And why do you reckon that? And I know this might sound odd because it's poor turn for it any other way. But why do you think the Big Finish is so addictive to fans? Like it's like an addiction you can't get rid of. Once you've listened to one, you've got to listen to 4,582.
Um, I mean, I guess it helps sometimes that the the ranges do tend to be planned for sort of four chunks of four, maybe box sets at a time. So once they hook you in with one box set, you've got to listen to the next one to find out what happens, and then the next one, and then the next. And I think also, I think they create really good characters as well as using the established characters. The companions that Big Finish have created have been fantastic, and you want to spend time with them. You want to know where they go next.
Yeah.
Um, the Eighth Doctor companions, I think, in particular, have been quite addictive. You really want to know what Liv and Helen are up to. You just, you know, you if another one of those comes out, it's like, well, just one more.
And I think that what makes Big Finish, and I noticed this because it was weird that it happened, but what makes Big Finish so interesting is that when you know a character because they're original to Big Finish, you know what they look like. When you see them on other TV programs, it makes you sort of laugh. So I can't remember what she's really called. It's really annoying me. But she's currently the voice of MasterChef, and I can't remember her name. But she was on Big Fat Quiz of the telly, and the question was, what are these people famous for? And they're all voiceover people for different programs. And I was sort of close to the TV yelling, "She's out of Big Finish," um, which which could not stop me laughing because none of the panelists would have known that because the answer was MasterChef.
You know who you mean? Because I don't know who does the voice for MasterChef.
It's bad of me not to know her name. But the character she plays is Charlotte Pollard.
Get away, India.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
She
India
does the
Fisher.
voice for MasterChef.
Yeah.
Does she? I never knew that.
Well, I noticed. Well, I never noticed the voice, and when you listen to Charlotte Pollard again, you think, right, she's a very good actress. She's very good at her job because she can do two things at once.
Yeah.
But she was
Well,
on.
there you go. You learn something new.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the answer was MasterChef, I was thinking, no, 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 she's out of Big Finish. No, they're all comedians, so they
Yeah,
don't know.
that's what I'd know her from. I wouldn't know her from
Yeah,
MasterChef.
yeah. And one of the other things you've worked on is something that people are disappointed that it didn't turn up on TV because the audios are so like rich with material and so what's the word? So you can picture it, and when they do like those mini shows when they announce the collection box sets and
Oh yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
they attempted this thing, a similar thing once, very briefly, um, and people think, well, I think they should animate it as onto TV because it is glorious. What was it like working on Gallifrey Time War 2?
Oh, that was fun. That was really good fun. That it's got a different tone to some of the other series. It's a lot more, it feels like it's got more gravitas, it's a lot more serious. It feels like a proper political show rather than it's not all fun and games. It feels like this is war. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. It was yeah, it felt quite meaty and serious, and I felt like a proper serious drama writer.
And do you reckon that would work on TV as animation, or do you reckon that because of how grandiose it is and because of how powerful it is, it deserves to stay in the realm of audio?
Animation can do really serious stuff. I think it does more and more serious stuff. There's loads of animated TV at the moment, which feels like grown-up animation rather than kids' cartoons. I don't think the medium really dictates the tone or the genre. I think the other way around. So if you write a serious drama, you can set, of course, you can animate it.
Yeah, and moving away from Doctor Who slightly, but one of the things you've done that is considered, and I know this for a fact, um, but is considered as a training ground, and I know that for a fact because one of my former teachers from the previous term at uni worked on this program as well, and then worked on another program. She said she's jinxed over things being cancelled because she works on them and gets cancelled. I don't think that that's the case at all. I think it is what the BBC say. But what was it like writing a few episodes of the wonderful BBC soap Doctors?
Oh, I wrote loads of episodes of Doctors. I loved it. I'm so honestly, it absolutely broke my heart when they cancelled it, and I think it's really worrying. What it says about the state of the British TV industry, I think, because I don't know where the new writers and actors and directors and producers are going to come from. I don't know where the that was always an entry level, even though it was brilliant, brilliant. And it was weird because it was an entry level television in that it's often where people got their first gigs, is where I got my first TV gig. But then you also have people who've been working on that show for years who are absolutely at the top of their game, at the top of their craft. And it's just and so the new people would then learn from those people. And there's nothing like that left now. I managed to get Fraser Hines into 3 hours. I created a character. I met Fraser at Gallifrey One, and I was writing docs at the time. And he said, "Oh, write me an episode." I said, "All right." So I wrote this character, and then I brought the character back 3 times. I gave him a little trilogy. I called the character Sonny Troughton, just
Well,
like for lols.
yeah, and I think
But yeah, I loved that show. It was a great show. We got to write. You could write any genre, even though it was set in a doctor's surgery. You could, if you wanted to write a musical, you could write a musical. If you wanted to make a comedy, a fantasy, serious, hard-hitting political comment on the NHS, you could do whatever. You take your stories to Peter, the exec, and say, I want to tell this story through doctors. And most of the time, he was really up for breaking boundaries. Oh, it's such a shame that show has gone. Honestly, I will never stop being cross.
and I think that one of the things that made me really chuckle about Doctors, and I noticed this once whilst watching it, and I just think that I don't know who knows what these actors have done previously to make this gag work. But there's a gag where, and it's a really minor gag, but Al Haskell's phone lights up, and you can see the Fifth Doctor on his screen. And what makes me really laugh about that is that he played a Slovene in the Sarah Jane Adventures in the very first episode. So that being that Al Haskell Doctor is a massive Doctor Who fan,
Yeah.
Al probably knows that someone that looks like him within the Sarah Jane Adventures, he knows all of that.
There's I'm friends with Ian Midlane who played Al, and he pointed out the other day that there's his Slovene head latex mask thing is on sale on eBay.
Yeah,
But Al was the character was a big sci-fi fan and fantasy fan and film and LARP fan. So I always loved giving him little Doctor Who type things to. I'd always sneak Doctor Who things into my scripts. I had one of the some corporate story that I set at Peladon Industry just because
yeah.
uh, I would see how what I could get past the script edit. Although I had a script editor, Simon Curtis, who was also a massive Doctor Who fan. So we would just we'd plot little things to sneak in, see what we could get away with.
And I think that that's what makes Doctor Who so memorable as a, not just as a brand, but as a thing in the world. Because then you watch like The Simpsons or whatever, and you see all these mini cameos. It might not be the actors, but it's like cameos of the long scarf or the hat or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And do you reckon that having all these cameos and all these little tidbit references in all the programs, do you reckon that that's what helps Doctor Who survive longevity, even when like large moments of bursts of everyone watching it sort of dies down.
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that it has, I think because it's essentially at its heart, it is a children's family show. So it's something that you get attached to when you're quite young, and therefore those sort of things always stay with you. But then it's lasted for so long, partly because it's so good, but also partly because, like you say, it's now become part of national consciousness. Even it's you could, even somebody who's never watched an episode will know what a TARDIS is.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what makes it so accessible to a lot of people because you know what these things are. And one of the other things you've worked on is pretty unique to Big Finish because it isn't just one entity because of the way the TV show announced. Well, it didn't say all of the announcement, but they mentioned in it that there was multiple variants of this one organization. What was it like working on one of the Big Finish works of the universe of Torchwood?
I only did one Torchwood. And that was one of the very first ones that I wrote. So I feel I don't I've never gone back to it. I just got swept up with all the other stuff. I'm trying to write everything, and it's there's only so much you can do. I really loved the fact that I got to write basically a comedy caper with two cracking female characters who are absolutely they're both evil and bonkers, but somehow absolutely adorable.
Yeah,
To take those two characters on a sort of madcap chase across town to manacled together with these space handcuff type things.
yeah,
It was ludicrous, so and just so much fun because you could just write snark and sass and them sniping at each other for an hour. It was just fun, just having fun. So Torchwood, because it can be quite dark,
yeah,
but I quite enjoyed just the silliness of that episode and just having fun with two characters who have quite dark histories. So there are a couple of moments where it gets darker. Um, but I mean, if two characters needed some fun, I think it was those two.
And do you reckon that having Torchwood having a base in London with one set team and a base in Cardiff, do you reckon that helps Big Finish to be able to do more free with it because they don't always have to be, oh, these characters have to be involved. They can say, oh yeah, one month we're gonna have a story with Yanto before he dies in a spoiler if anyone's never seen Torchwood for the world of like before characters have been killed off in the program. Do you reckon that makes it more freeing for Big Finish to win because there's two different teams and there's enough people in it to work with?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I mean, it must be one of the most prolific ranges that they've done. But I think having lots of different characters who can and you can sort of mix and match, if you like. You can pair them up and team them up in different ways. Um, yeah, that must help. It gives you a little bit more freedom, I think.
Yeah.
But they've done the same with Unit as well, because you've got across different time periods, so you can tell different stories depending on the place or the time that you're setting the stories in.
Yeah, and with Unit, you can have Osgood in it, or you can do stories without Osgood. And I think Osgood's one of those characters that's really impressive, but then the actor is really impressive because then you find out they're married to Richard Osman, and that makes it even more impressive. That's a bit that I didn't realize because you don't recognize it without the glasses. So I just think, oh, it's Richard Osman's
Yeah,
wife.
that's true, actually. She does look really different without the glasses. Yeah.
And do you reckon that working on Unit is a similar feeling to Torchwood, rather than it being as dark and as as gloomy as some bits of Torchwood could be. Do you reckon the unit is the in between? It's not really for kids. It's not for the Torchwood audience. It's for the middle ground. That might be the older kids. Like, it might be the families with like the 12, 13-year-olds. Do you reckon that makes it feel a little bit different to when you're working with Torchwood?
Interesting. Yeah, that's quite a nice analogy. Yeah, it's definitely not adults only, whereas Torchwood can be quite, yeah, this is not for children. Um, yeah, and there is a sort of gravitas, there is a seriousness about Unit that you don't. I mean, the brilliance of Doctor Who is that sometimes it's deadly serious and sometimes it's absolutely silly as anything. But Unit has a. I like Unit because you get a real. It feels like a real organization, and it feels like they do a proper serious job. Um,
Yeah.
and they're desperately trying to keep everything under control while the Doctor's not around. Um, and I like the different characters, and you get the office banter and the workplace banter as well as the seriousness of the missions and what they're trying to do. But yeah, that's interesting. It is a sort of middle ground between the really family friendly Doctor Who and the adults only Torchwood. Yeah, but yeah, it's quite nice.
And you mentioned there about sometimes Doctor Who's really silly, and this is going on tangent slightly, but it's my favourite Doctor Who piece of goofiness of all time that should be a stand-up show, but it will happen one day. And I think that the Candyman, having a giant creature that looks like a giant sweet, is definitely a top 10 list of silly things. That and Ken Dodd, but Ken Dodd can't beat some bloke Jesse as a massive, like, bluish sweet that is just trying to be all evil. It's like running away from a pick and mix. Um, that should be that could be a Torchwood episode. The Torchwood team have to try and defeat the evil pick and mix. Um,
Love a pick and mix. I will never think of it in the same way.
uh, and so when you get commissioned to do a piece of writing, do they? And I know this is an overused term because I don't know who started using it, but I think it's the term that. Do they give you a like Bible type thing of all the things that for this thing that you want to work on that you're not allowed to do because it's already happened, or as you're already a fan, does that just not concern you because you know enough for this thing you've been commissioned to work on? You know that's already happened, so I can't do that. Or I know that someone told me that might be happening.
Yeah, there's no. This is why I think it is useful if you do, if you're a fan already, then it really helps. There's no Bible because well, actually, I say there's no Bible. That's not true because there are books that have
Yeah.
well, not all of them, but I don't know how many volumes there are, but there are Big Finish. I've now forgotten the title of it, like a compendium of Big
Wow.
Finish stories. There's a few of them now. And I think there's another one in progress, but the you don't get given anything. So usually people tend to get asked to work on things that you've expressed an interest in. So, for instance, I'll say, I really want to write a story for this character, or for this range. And sometimes you'll get asked to do something that you're not that familiar with, or it's not really your favorite bit of the show. So you'll say, well, actually, I'd rather do. So they tend to gear their writers towards the stories that they want to tell.
Yeah.
And you can just go and listen to the audios for reference to stuff. And TARDIS Wiki is amazing. It's put everything on there.
It is in so much detail. I'm concerned for whoever decided to update it to make it what it is now because they've got too much free time. I thought I had free time. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
there is.
sometimes because there's been so Big Finish have told so many stories. that you can't possibly remember all of them. So sometimes last year, I think I pitched an idea, and Matt Fitton said, "I think somebody's done that," and I went and had a look and went,
Yeah.
"Ah."
And
Yes, they have.
yeah, and there's a similar one, and I know this is going off tangent, but it matches up. There's a similar one for Taskmaster, but it's not like a Taskmaster wiki thing. Someone, and I don't know his real name, so I can't tell you that, but he's made a website for Taskmaster called
Yeah.
Taskmaster.info. The whole website is made to look like the task envelopes from the show. And
Wow.
everyone that creates their own version around the world uses that website because when you click on, like, I don't know, Series 4, Episode 1 of the UK version, and click on one of the tasks, you'll find out which countries have done similar tasks, and then how each person completed that, and then and then if you type in rubber ducks, you'll see all the tasks that have been generated by that have done with rubber ducks. And so Alex Horn, if he's trying to come up with a new one, he looks it up on taskmaster.info to see if someone else has already done it.
Oh,
As
that's clever.
yeah, so I,
Wait, four of us, me and John Dorney, Alfie Shaw and Andy Smith, we went to do the Taskmaster live. I won the medal.
I,
I was a bit sad because I really wanted the gold rubber duck.
well, it was my idea to do the Taskmaster Live experience. I failed, and then I was bad at being bad. I
Oh,
got no points the entire time. The woman that was the assistant that was there
yeah.
made it very clear to everyone in the room that I was the useless one with no points. As Greg and Alice is chanting "loser," I mean to us lot, she just said, "Just to make clear, you've got no points there."
Yes.
And even though I tried my best, someone else won the duck. I was even the worst of the worst of the worst.
That's so annoying.
Oh, I know it's embarrassing when I've organised the event. It gets worse.
That was good fun though.
Yeah. And so one of the other things you've done, and it goes on to what you mentioned before, but were you a fan of Survivor before you got to work on Survivor, or were you one of the writers that went in completely not knowing much about the world of Survivor?
Never seen the TV series, but I'd listened to some of the audio stuff.
Yeah,
So I knew I knew the world I was stepping into. That was really fun. That was the very first Big Finish I did. I think they were trying me out before, just in case I was just a crazed Doctor Who fan who just really wanted to write for Doctor Who. So they said, do a Survivors first, prove you can actually write, even if there's no doctors involved. Um, and that was really good fun. I really enjoyed that. Trying to remember, Peter Davison's son was in my episode, I think. Was he? Yeah, he was playing the Peter, the son of the character that I've now forgotten her name. Um, but that was good fun. That was quite dark.
yeah,
That was definitely not family friendly. That was that
yeah,
was pre-COVID, and then COVID happened, and it was like, oh, this is very close to home.
yeah. And when you were writing for the Fugitive Doctor, going back to doing a full circle, um, how cool. Were you told by anyone, and I know you wouldn't be able to say this even if you were, but you can probably hint to it, which is what Doctor Who creatives are very good at doing. Stephen Moffat. um, were you told what you weren't allowed to write for the Future Doctor due to what might happen in the TV series? Because there has been recent rumours of her accidentally, Joe Martin accidentally saying the words "so far."
Um, I mean, there are always guidelines depending on what's going on in the TV show because you can't, obviously, you don't want to tread the same ground. I think accidentally sometimes there are crossovers, but
Yeah,
generally speaking, because everything goes through the BBC, they've got an eye over audio, all the worlds of Doctor Who. We had we got a brief from Chris Chibnall, just a sort of general. This is what the fugitive Doctor should be. This is generally speaking what her stories should be like. So you have guidance, um, so that you can go in particular ways. But it's all friendly.
Yeah,
You know, we're all one big. We're all part of the. We're all telling the same story.
yeah. And when you would finish your script, did you send it to Chris Jimnall to get his opinion on it, or did you send it to him because you know he would be mega pleased that his character is going to new heights?
Well, I don't actually know. I know that Russell generally has a read of the stuff that is within his work. So the characters that he's created, he will generally have a look at what you're doing. He'll certainly read the outlines. I think Chris would have read. I mean, I don't know this actually for sure. I'm pretty sure the outlines will have been run by Chris because, I mean, out of courtesy more than anything, but also they're his characters. I don't know if you read the script. I certainly wouldn't send them to him because I deal with the script editor and the producer, but yeah, and then
Yeah,
they filter my stuff through to higher ups.
yeah. Because I think that that's what Big Finish does well is that as a creative, from the original concept of creating these things, not the new the wave of how it's formed. You would feel a lot proud that your characters and your worlds are popular enough for people wanting to utilize them and update
Oh
them.
yeah,
That
yeah. I mean, everybody is. We all they all love the show,
yeah,
and especially if you look at Russell and Moffat and Chris, they're all massive fans.
yeah.
And so everybody just love. There's no. It's weird because sometimes the media will try and stir up rivalries between them, and actually everyone's just mates, and everybody just loves each other.
Well, there has been a few suggestions, and I'm going to make this public, but there has been a few suggestions that the three of them just really, really annoy the main news papers that really try to say they hate each other. They should create a podcast where they just talk absolute nonsense to prove once and for all. Because there was a video of the Fish Doctor YouTube where they sat around a table. So I think it would work to really annoy everyone that really doesn't like the three of them that they're actually really good friends. I think that
Yeah,
would work. I would think that
I would definitely subscribe to that. That would be brilliant.
the Who runners,
Yes.
yeah, so you can use.
That's good.
There's still names you can use with the word Who. Not everyone's took them all yet. You come up
Yeah,
and you Google and go, oh, that's already exists.
I know.
There's millions of things, so you come up with an idea and you have to make sure that no one else has stolen it. Once you've done it,
Yeah,
I haven't got time to develop this. I have to get it out quickly so no one else nicks it.
yeah.
And do you? So with this interview now, drawing at the climax to the roundabout that I like to call not getting lost, because if you go around the roundabout too many times, you do get lost. That has happened, not to me because I don't drive to other people. But have you got any up and coming projects, both that you're excited for people to see slash hear that you are allowed to talk about that are coming up either in the next year or are coming out at some point, but you don't know the release date?
Don't think any of them have been announced yet. This is a nightmare. You must have this every time you speak to people. Um, oh, I I've got I've got quite a few really exciting things coming out, but none of them have been announced, so I can't tell you. They're really good. They're really exciting. Yeah, stay tuned. Oh, sorry, that's really annoying. Yeah, I've got a film which has nothing to do with Big Finish except it is, in that I was working with Rebecca Root on Stranded, and she came to me about a project she was involved in, which is a true story about a trans woman who took the government to court to have her marriage legitimised. And I got involved in this amazing project, and then we got Chris Eccleston on board as well, which was obviously because of his work with Big Finish. And now we have this amazing film in development, which tells a really important story at a really crucial time. Um, and it's called Hear Me Roar. So look out for that. I can tell you about that.
Yeah. And
And Big Finish stuff, I'm embargoed on most of it.
and with the film, do you have an estimate of do you have a guess? Because I know there definitely won't be a release, but do you have a guess when it'll be out? Like, will it be?
I'm just the lowly writer. They don't tell me anything. I'm not entirely. I no, I wouldn't like to hesitate. I wouldn't like to hazard a guess in case I'm completely wrong and then I look foolish. I will update as soon as I know.
Um, and one of the things that really has made so many people, I would say, either slightly older than me by a year or two, or my age, really happy, was Christopher Eccleston returning to the world of Doctor Who via audio. What was it like when you found out that you were going to write for the person that helped bring Doctor Who, like, like running and screaming into the 21st century?
Oh my God. So the excitement was just unbelievable. It was so hard not to say anything because it was so top secret and hush hush. And so you'd get these secret little coded emails saying, "Are you interested in doing this story? We can't tell you exactly what it is, but and then finally saying, "Do you want to write for the Ninth Doctor?" And it's actual Eccleston. I think I probably screamed because I love it. I loved him. I love him as I've always loved him as an actor.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, he brought it back. And was just brilliant in the role. And we didn't get enough of him in the role. So yeah,
I don't think that
fantastic.
I think that the audios have helped, and I know I've listened to the first one, but I'm one of those people that listen to the first box set and get distracted by 12 other box sets, and then go, oh
Fair
wait,
enough.
and you come back quickly, it's going to be sold out, and I get distracted elsewhere. But I think that for me and a lot of people, it sends them back to that year. It sends them
Mm,
back to the beginning, and I think for very small people, it sends them back to hearing Graham Norton's voice interrupt it, and you just slightly hear him. He's like, oh no, and he should do a cameo with one of them, Graham Norton, just promoting Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Um, but it's one. But I think that Christopher Eccleston, even though we know what his opinions are on the TV series and all that, but I think that for audio, I'm gonna say this. I mean, the gas mask children is the creepiest episode of his run, but I think the Big Finish stuff are some of his best work because of how expansive and how you can just see him, even though he looks slightly older now, you can just see him in his youthful self running, making squeaky noises in his leather jacket. You can just picture it.
yes.
Do you reckon that's why that fans have like fallen in love with him all over again?
I think yeah, and I think because he's fallen in love with the character and the stories as well, and is having a genuine whale of a time playing that character again. And I think he was just so delighted at how people were delighted for him to come back. I think he was really genuinely blown away by the outpouring of joy when he returned, um, which is lovely. Like, joy provokes more joy.
Yeah, yeah, because you can tell that, well, everyone does, because why else would they do? But you can tell that Christopher Eccleston enjoys his career because at the moment, in the last few years, his career has gone from being where it was before to being really, really good. Because obviously returning back to Doctor Who, and then doing the A Word and all these other fantastic things, and doing and doing where he dramatically reads a story, where he looks as serious as possible. But I think his career is going from strength to strength again because he is
Yeah.
a brilliant and should be Oscar winning actor. And do you reckon that he will last for a good few years, or do you reckon?
Oh, he's a classic. He's one of the actors that will be one of the greats. He's a Derek Jacobi who will always be a great actor, I think.
Yeah, and he'll probably be there as long as Tom Baker will be. Or, or
Immortal.
yeah, immortal. And so, as we come to the end of this magical, glorious, uh, spacey, trying to think of sci-fi terms, out of this world interviews, this is your opportunity to tell people where they can find you without giving away your home address. Online, where can people track you down to enjoy more of your beautiful work?
I mean, I don't. In terms of social media, I try not to. I took a big break from it last year because it was driving me nuts. And I've ventured back onto Blue Sky, so I'm there. If you look for me, I can't even remember my handle. It's probably at Lisa McMullin. And I'm on Instagram, but I never post anything because I can't quite work. I need words.
Yeah,
That picture only platform just baffles me. So I don't really do much on. So I sometimes I'm pottering about Blue Sky, saying nonsense. Um, so yeah, just Google me and you'll find me somewhere.
yeah, yeah. And I think the only thing Instagram's good for is to post images of the covers of Big Finish because it's the correct size. And there's
So that's true, actually. I should do that.
yeah. And so there we have it. Thank you for letting me interview you.
Thank you for having me.
And so there we have it. As you can tell, my voice has improved over this time. Does anyone know why? No, I don't know why, and I don't want to know why. Don't ask, because you'll jinx it. It's like saying if you're stuck in traffic, no, but then 4 seconds later, you're stuck in so much traffic, you regret saying it. So let's not say it, shall we? And so there should and will be more interviews by me. Whether or not there's gags in the next interview based on other aspects, which either will come clear or won't come clear. It depends on who you ask. If you ask me, I go, no, don't ask me. And so there we have it. Thank you guys for watching Time on Demand. Bye.